I have always wondered why life is often characterized by suffering. If you know any about Buddhism, one of the first axioms about Buddhism is that life is suffering. And I never really understood that for quite a long time. But in order to understand the concept of voluntary suffering, we have to understand first why is life itself suffering, or why is it characterized as suffering. So I think that one of the reasons, or one of the core reasons why life is called, or life is quantified as predominantly suffering, is because that as humans we have this area in our brain called the prefrontal cortex, and it is this small area that gave us the possibility to understand time. And consciousness by itself is, by some scientists, defined as the ability to perceive time. So as humans, when we got this ability to perceive time, we automatically stretched our imagination from past ongoing to the future. And because there are so many different things that can eliminate our existence in this world. I mean, right now, in this modern world, we live in cities, we are pretty much safe, but for a very long time, our human ancestors lived in constant dread because you could, there could be nature, there could be disasters, there could be an act of God, as they said it, that could eliminate their existence. And because you will also notice that we humans are very, very susceptible to negative things that can happen because they help us survive. So, for example, if you encountered a snake in your life, you will remember that a lot more vividly than, for example, a positive incident where you saw, I don't know, a panda bear, or a teddy bear or something. So the point here is that there are so many things that can harm us that are constantly in the back of our head, and it is this fear, this anxiety that constantly causes suffering that we perceive in our life. But how do we counter that? What is the antidote to this constant existential anxiety that causes such immense suffering? And because life is suffering, as I explained, there is a fixed amount of suffering that we have to undergo, no matter who we are, or no matter which sphere do we belong to. Pain is constant in our life, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. But how do we take that pain is up to us. And that is where the idea for voluntary suffering comes in. This idea has been played out through centuries, and it's definitely not a new idea. A lot more in Christianity, for example. But I want to break down this idea as a general day-to-day habit that we can use to reduce our anxiety. So, if you look at your life, you will see that majority of us are unconsciously running away from suffering. Any form of suffering, we are just trying to run away from it. We don't like to take risks. We don't like to experience any negative emotion. We don't like to experience the for example, even the sensations of cold or extreme warmth. So if you look at your life, you will see that throughout your day you are consistently trying to run away from suffering, and because life itself is a form of suffering, you are then running away from life, and that will, because it will not get you anywhere. The only the only way you can eliminate suffering possibly is if you build walls around you, and even then, just because you are a being who has a perception of time, even if you were perfectly encased in the most luxurious life without any care in the world, you will still have existential angst, and that will be much more heightened because there is no other form of suffering in your life. So, how do we translate this abstract idea into reducing the anxiety and the existential dread that everybody has? I think the way to go forward with it is something called voluntary suffering. And voluntary suffering is very, very simple. It's something we bear today so that our tomorrow becomes better. For example, going to gym is a form of voluntary suffering. We are suffering at the moment right now so that we become a bit stronger. So we are actually taking on this pain voluntarily so that we become stronger and can take much more pain next time. Stretching, for example, is a form of voluntary suffering because we are pushing the limits of ourselves till the point where it causes pain, and then when we can accept that pain, we can go ahead. Once you start to take suffering or pain, once you start to pursue it for the better, and that is the very big difference that I want to stress, because voluntary suffering can only be helpful if it is if it is something that makes you feel that you will take on a bigger burden tomorrow. It's not, it is something for the greater good that you are taking this on as well. And through simple acts we can do every day, we can reduce this existential anxiety that we have. So, for example, something as simple as taking a cold shower every day, where we suffer for a moment because it's of course cold, it can reduce the anxiety that we have whenever we wake up in the morning. Any act that we do in pursuit of voluntary suffering that can aid us later tomorrow, which can help us bear more burden of this life, will reduce our suffering, because we are taking that portion of our suffering that we will have to take on anyway, and then we are taking that part of it and then using it for our advantage. Because think about it this way: how would you like to suffer if you were in your bed in a warm blanket, everything around you is okay, and you're riddled with anxiety and you feel alone? Or would you rather be running in the cold, facing the pain, knowing that you're pushing yourself beyond your limit, and then coming back to your bed and sleeping then peacefully because you have taken that share of suffering and then used it to make yourself better? Again, this is all a very abstract concept, and I am myself struggling to put them into words. But these things, I think, these ideas are instinctive. They can be transmitted from one person to another, not necessarily in the best way by words, but we can actually feel what the other person means in this case. And I really hope that you grasp what I am trying to say here. And I actually really hope that it helps you living your life for the best, in the best possible manner, and becoming yourself every day. Thank you for watching.